Hey, dudes and dudettes, it's me, your Uncle Herbie, and this is another edition of Wisdom After the Fall. Today we're going to talk about retardonomics. This is the economic programs being recommended, followed, implemented, or otherwise advocated by both the left and the right in this country, and none of it should be believed because this week we hit a milestone. A milestone in what I am also calling the dollar religion. The dollar is not a currency, it's a religion because its entire value is based on faith. But we're going to get into all of this as we go along. Let me begin with what happened this past week that is monumental. It dwarfs Iran. It dwarfs every debate we're having, social, political, or otherwise. We are coming very, very close to the end of the road on this. And I'm not doing this to scare you. I have nothing to sell you. Okay, I have no program to sell you. I'm going to give you straight advice and wisdom. You can take it. It's worth exactly what you're paying for it. It's worth as much as you assign value to it. I ask you to do nothing but simply listen through. I'm going to make it brief and to the point, and then I'll expand on it hopefully in the weeks ahead as questions arise and things develop. But what happened in the last week is, okay, so understand that right now we spend twice as much money as we take in. We being the government, the federal government of the United States, spends twice as much money as it takes in. And we spend it on all kinds of things, but mostly on what are called entitlements. The two biggest expenditures of the budget now are entitlements and the interest on the national debt. It used to be entitlements in defense, but the interest on the national debt, and this is where it's going to really fly out of control here in about 30 seconds. This is the key point. The interest on the national debt is larger than the defense budget. It's over $1 trillion a year, and the Federal Reserve cannot control interest rates. And that's what we learned in the last week. So you may recall, those of you who follow this sort of thing, that President Trump appointed someone named Kevin Warsh to be the new chairman of the Federal Reserve because he didn't like the predecessor. And the new chairman came in, and sure enough, Trump, of course, wants interest rates to be lower, lower, lower to stimulate growth and basically cover up his retardonomics. We'll get into that in just a moment. So he put a lot of pressure on the Federal Reserve, both the last chairman and this chairman, not to raise interest rates. And so they didn't, even though inflation is clearly rearing its ugly head. I don't have to get into numbers with you. You know it. You go to the grocery store. You go to the gasoline pump. Let's not get bogged down in which statistic to believe. Just believe your lying eyes, as the old story goes. So, inflation numbers are not good. We probably should have raised interest rates if you go with the standard company line of what the Federal Reserve does in the face of an inflation, but that's not what they did. And so they started the chain reaction that ended up being the disaster that happened last week. Now, also on an almost constant basis, the Treasury Department, which is separate from the Federal Reserve theoretically, the Treasury, well, and it is separate. Let me not get hyperbolic on this. The Treasury is a separate agency from the Federal Reserve that's headed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's a darling. If there is a media darling, that's my cat Morty, by the way, off to the left. He'll just, pop in and pop out. If there is a media darling in the administration that the press, mainstream press, actually at least tolerates, it's probably Scott Bessent. So I'm not sure. My opinion of him is sinking fast. So I have to tell you, I had a higher opinion of him to start with than I do now. But I digress. So long story short, they come out with the weekly bond auction at the Federal Reserve interest rate. That's what they declared. And there weren't enough people to buy the bonds. The Treasury normally sells all of its bonds at auction, but we did not sell all of our bonds. We didn't sell all of our bonds because we weren't offering a high enough interest rate. And so the bond market demanded and got a higher interest rate. Now, we still didn't sell all the bonds. So what happened? The Federal Reserve itself bought the excess bonds. That's closing the loop on a Ponzi scheme, okay? Because then what the Federal Reserve does is they buy the bonds, which are paid with the money that they printed in the first place, okay? That the Congress is now going to spend on entitlements and other kinds of non-productive spending, which is going to stimulate inflation. And now those bonds are being carried as an asset on the books of the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve bought them at the interest rate that the Treasury wanted to sell them at, not at the rate the market was demanding. So therefore, their value instantly goes down. When interest rates go up, bonds go down. Okay, now, brief explanation as to why. Let's say that there's a $10,000 bond, okay, and the $10,000 bond is offered at 4%, and some guy buys it at 4%. That means that that person or that investor is going to get $400 a year in interest on that bond. A bond is just a fancy name for a loan. When you buy a bond, you're loaning somebody money. Whoever issued the bond is who you're lending money to. So in this case, on a U.S. government bond, you would get 4% back on this $10,000 bond. But now, this week, you can go out and buy higher quality bonds. Believe it or not, there are two corporations in the United States with bonds that have a higher credit rating than the government of the United States. And this is just one example. You can buy bonds at 5%, okay, that are extremely high quality and better credit rating than the government of the United States. So the value, if you were to try to sell the $10,000 $400 bond, you would have to discount the face so that $400 is 5%, okay, in other words, you'd have to sell it for $8,000. Because 4%, $400 is 5% of 8,000, and why would anyone in their right mind buy a $400 paying bond for 10,000 when they can buy a $500 paying bond for 10,000? And the answer is only if you discount the old bond down to 8,000 so that 400 equals 5%. Get it? Hope I didn't lose you. Replay it if I lost you. But that's why when interest rates go up, bonds go down. So now the Federal Reserve has put a bunch of bonds on its books that it already has too many bonds on, because this is the exact same stupidity that we did back in 2008 and then onward from there, bailing out banks and buying a bunch of junk mortgages that are still on the Federal Reserve's books that have no value at all, that they're carrying at book value. Okay, now what does that mean? It means that all of these assets, whether they're worthless, the stuff they bought since 2008, or the mortgage funds that are useless, you might as well just light them on fire and throw them in the street. The only value is imaginary, but they're carrying them at book value, which means they're pretending that they have a full 100% value when they have no value at all. Further, okay, these bonds that they're buying at an interest rate lower than the market are already losing 10, 20% of their face value, but they're also carrying them at book value. This is all part of the Ponzi scheme of fooling us, they hope, into believing that everything is okay. Everything is not okay. This is going to accelerate because the world is losing faith in the United States. Why is the world losing faith in the United States? Because we have a $40 trillion deficit. Are we alone in this? No, we are not. The Europeans are in worse shape than we are. So there's no chance the EU the euro is going to replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. They're in worse shape than we are. Plus, the EU is on the brink of breaking up. I know that's not being talked about a lot, but the Eastern European countries like Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. I know I'm forgetting Finland. There are a lot of Eastern European countries that are wondering, why are we a part of this zone where the French and the Germans and the Spanish and the Italians are spending enormous amounts of money they don't have, and they're pulling us into their downward spiral, and we're better off with our own money. And the EU is going to break up. So the euro is going to be one of those things that was a nice experiment, but the Europeans have been killing each other for thousands of years. They didn't suddenly decide to all pull together at the same time. This is a fantasy of globalists that will soon fall away. Having said that, that's just fuel on the fire, okay? Because there's so much social spending. And let me explain who the villain is. I mean, we're all villains. We've all demanded a lot, but it's our generation. Those of you who like me are boomers. We're the ones killing this, because we could shut down the whole government, the whole thing. We could shut down the Department of Defense, the President, the Congress, everyone. Stop paying everybody. Stop paying all the bureaucrats. Stop paying every department except for Social Security and Medicare, the two things we depend upon, and the government would still be in deficit. It's Social Security and Medicare, and we didn't start it, and we didn't ask for it. We were babies when they made Medicare. I'm not saying that we forced anybody to do it, but we are certainly the largest recipients, and we are the most resistant to any kind of change whatsoever. And it is a fact, an objective reality, that Social Security and Medicare are killing us. Okay. Yes, other forms of welfare are bad too, and they have all kinds of societal implications and all kinds of problems, and they need to be stopped for all kinds of reasons, not to mention crime and addiction and fentanyl, and we can get into all of those discussions. I have in past videos, I will again, but in the context of the financial crisis that we are facing, that dwarfs all other crises, okay, we are practicing retardonomics. And if we don't get out of this, well, we're not going to. I'm going to tell you right now, here is the one Hail Mary pass that could get us out of this. And it's not going to happen. And the one Hail Mary pass is the least popular thing in America today, and that's AI. Okay, the public opinion, maybe you too, has completely turned against the data centers for irrational reasons. Okay, again, I'll do another video just on AI alone, but believe me, if you think that AI is a problem, you don't understand what it is, what it can do, and what will happen if we don't do it. Okay, let me be very, very clear on that, because we are not alone in the AI universe, and we cannot put pauses and moratoriums and let's wait and see, because the rest of the world isn't going to, and they're going to eat us up, and we are in such a precarious financial position, and AI is our only hope, because if we can maintain our lead in AI, at least potentially, is an enormous magnifier of productivity. Okay, so AI potentially, this is the promise of AI. Whether or not it's going to deliver on the promise remains to be seen, but it's our only hope. The promise is that AI is going to magnify each individual workers to where they're like 100 workers or 1,000 workers. You're not going to lose your job. You're just going to be a super employee. I realize that there are people out there telling you that you're going to lose your job and your career and blah, 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 blah. They don't understand AI. They are Malthusian. Okay, this happens every time there's any kind of change. Don't listen to that nonsense. There'll be new jobs. We just don't know what they are yet. I don't know what they are either, because the future's opaque, and that's what's so scary to people. But AI, unless we multiply our productivity, create lots and lots of revenue, and therefore lots and lots of tax income, and therefore lots and lots of ways to, we don't have to pay off the debt, but we have to change the trajectory from taking off. And us baby boomers, guys, are just hitting retirement. Okay, I'm 69. I'm not 89. Okay, we're going to be around for a long time, and we're a growing number, drawing away the lifeblood of the country in a program that we resist all reform to. Okay, and then let's not forget the retardonomics of the left. Okay, I don't want to just pick on the right. Okay, because on the left, those idiots want to do Medicare for all. So Medicare and Social Security are breaking us, but they want to do it for all. And they have all kinds of reasons why that are all bullshit. Okay, folks, us boomers are way, way subsidized in our healthcare costs. Medicare should not be costing as little as we pay for Medicare Part B, and we don't even pay for Medicare Part A. Okay, for the benefits that it's paid, it is way, way subsidized. We do that for the whole country. We're done. We're done. The left pretends like the money's, they just want to print it. And this will lead to a hyperinflation. Okay, if they get control, we're doomed. But we're already doomed because nobody on the right is talking about this in any serious way. And the idea that we're going to AI our way out of this, now that I told you this was our only hope, it's not going to happen, because those idiots on the right and left, people like craven politicians like, what's the name of the guy, the governor of Texas? What's his name? Greg Abbott. Suddenly is becoming, I'm not going to let you, we're going to do a moratorium on AI data centers. Texas is empty. Okay, the obligation, the problems with AI, they aren't problems to begin with, and Texas, of all places, shouldn't be where they're drawing the line. But this moron shows you that retardonomics is alive and well on the right. Okay, Mike Rogers up in Michigan suddenly doesn't understand why AI is a good thing, as he's running against that communist, Abdul al-Sayed, who's also has retardonomics. I mean, if I had to pick the retardonomics of the left or the right, I guess I'd pick the right, but really not much, because, for example, this week, President Trump, who has shit the bed internationally, this is another reason why we can't sell our bonds, because who buys our bonds but insurance companies, banks, and huge investors, including huge international investors, and they're not buying them because Trump has completely made an enemy out of basically everybody's a friend. Look, I understand those of you on the right, can tell me a litany of reasons why Canada is a bunch of lefties, and look at what they do, and their bilingualism, and the French thing, and the tariffs on our agricultural products, and blah 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 blah. Look, if there's any border in the world that doesn't even need to exist, and I'm all for strong borders, but if there was one mythical border you should be able to wipe away, it's the Canadian-US border. I'm not saying make Canada the 51st state. I'm not a moron. Okay, I'm saying that culturally they're so close to us. Economically, they're our largest trading partner, and trade is good. Okay, and the little teeny weeny fringe problems that this guy is blowing out of proportion into this disaster, he broke something that didn't need fixing. NAFTA was fine. Okay, I'm sorry, it was. International trade is good. I know that Trump has been touting this economic nationalism. It's retardonomics. And all of this, nobody on the retarded right and nobody on the retarded left are talking about the real problem, which is the dollar is not a currency, it's a religion. Its entire value is based on one thing only: faith. Okay? There's no gold behind it. There's no silver behind it. There's no money behind it. What money? We're the reserve currency. It's toilet paper. It only has value because you believe that when you, let's say that you own a store and some guy hands you $10 to buy an item that you're selling, you believe that's worth $10. That piece of paper is worth $10. But it's really just paper and ink. It's just, you can't go down to the Federal Reserve like you used to be able to years and years ago before Richard Nixon, may he rot in hell, took us off the gold standard in 1971 and set this whole ball rolling. Okay, just set the world on fire. Okay, and the only respite we've had in all of this is President Clinton, who gets absolutely no credit for balancing the budget, but he did. Okay, and we've been on a profligate, wild spree of spending since 2001. Okay, and it's just, it's a disaster. And it's coming, the bond market is telling us. The bond market is telling us. The bond market doesn't lie, my friends, because the bond market is a free market and it's not being manipulated. And it's telling you what the world's smart investors know. The United States is losing its creditworthiness, and they're going to continue to not buy our bonds. And we're going to continue to buy them at the Federal Reserve, which, by the way, has not been audited. And the reason it has not been audited for decades is because nobody wants to look. It's all part of the religion of the faith of the dollar, because what is faith but believing in what can't be true? I mean, those of us who practice a religion and believe in God are believing in something, and I mean no offense by this, for which there is no physical evidence whatsoever. And the only evidence there is in the writings of an ancient people who didn't have electricity. Okay, just saying. All right, but if you believe that God's real and you believe that God's part of your life, that's faith. And faith is believing in what can't be true. You don't need faith to believe, okay, that gravity is real, because you can demonstrate it to yourself every day. You don't need faith to believe that tomorrow morning the sun will come up and tonight and this evening the sun will go down, because it's objective reality. There's no faith. You don't believe it. I believe the sun will come up. No, you know the sun will come up. But you need faith to believe in what you can't prove. Okay, there's lots of quasi-religions. The UFO thing is all based on faith. There's not a shred. I know in your imaginations you think there are, in fuzzy photos and eyewitness testimony from people. But, either these are the most secretive aliens or but the truth is, there's one word that makes it impossible: relativity. I've got news for you guys. There's never been an alien here. There's never going to be an alien here, and we are probably never going to meet an alien. Okay, we might find evidence of intelligent alien life or technological civilizations out there. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying they're not coming here, and we're not going there because relativity. Relativity. Just saying. I don't want to get into a physics discussion, but that's subjective reality. I don't need, faith to believe in it, because relativity has been proven. Read about it yourself. It is not a theory anymore. It's a fact. Okay, relativity was a theory. Now it's a fact. Okay, it's objective reality. I don't need faith. I need faith to believe that the dollar has any value, because in objective reality, it has no value. Okay, so it's all based on faith. And if that faith is shaken, okay, and that's what inflation does, because the government is going to come to a fork in the road very soon. We're already there. And that fork is going to be, do we decide to inflate the currency, Or do we decide to do the right thing and cause a deep, deep recession and wring the inflation out of the economy and bite the bullet and free up the economy and let it go, because that is the only way to fix this, and nobody's talking about austerity. Nobody's talking about cutting entitlements. Nobody's talking about reform. Nobody's talking about when Social Security goes broke in 2030. And I didn't even get to that. I'm just talking about Social Security and Medicare. Medicare and Medicaid basically are killing us alone. Okay? And those idiots on the left want to add to it. Retarded. Retarded. I'll talk about medical care at another time. But just remember this, my friends. Good and free are two different things. Side note on the medical care, quickly. You want to see how great the world's Medicare, free medical care is? Come to Phoenix one day and just go to the lobby of the Mayo Clinic Hospital and sit and talk to who's visiting who from Norway and Denmark and Sweden and Canada and Germany and England and Italy. Anyone who has two nickels rubbed together, fly here to get treatment, because in a single payer system, long waiting periods and inferior care. Sorry, it's true. There are a lot of things we could do to reform American healthcare. I'll talk about it another time. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm telling you it's better than what they've got, even though it's messed up. We've almost ruined it, and if we did what the retardonomic idiots on the left want to do, we'll ruin it all the way. It is Medicare that has ruined medicine in this country. Believe me, that's the reason why. I'll explain it in another video. But again, that's retardonomics, okay? We practice retardonomics. We have a president who doesn't understand that tariffs 100% of the time do nothing but cost you money, and the trade deficits mean nothing. Nothing. It's a meaningless statistic. It's like you walk into the grocery store and you hand the grocer $100 for a bag of groceries, and you walk out and you feel okay about it because you got the groceries and he got the money. You don't sit there and think, he's got my money. No, you got the groceries. Well, we buy a lot of stuff because we're a prosperous country. We run a trade deficit because we can buy any crap we want. And a lot of the crap we want is available to us cheaper elsewhere. You want to make the American people's life a little more miserable than what inflation's doing? Keep hitting them with the tariffs. Because that's not inflation, that's just price increases. That's two different things. Don't be confused. Inflation is a monetary phenomenon, always. It's when the government prints too much money, because the government is unproductive. And all of that money that the government unproductively pumps into the economy is soaked up by the productive economy in goods and services like a sponge. It has to go somewhere. Where it's mostly gone is asset prices, the prices of stocks and real estate, which are going to crash. You don't know what a crash. You think 2008 was going to be a bad crash? Brace yourself. What was that line from the Robin Williams movie? Brace yourself, Effie. Okay, it's a coming. Now, when's it coming? I don't know. It's going to take just an event to break confidence. It's all about confidence. The moment the faith in the dollar is lost, all is lost. And it will take an event that we can't predict, because that's what always happens. There will be an unpredictable event of some kind. It could be war-related, it could be economically related, it could be the failure of a major company. I personally think, if I had to guess, it's either going to be the collapse of China, which would be devastating to the world supply chains and bring everything down upon all of us, or because the world supply chains, whether you like it or not, still run primarily through China. Because it was smart to do it that way before we decided to lose our minds and turn them into an enemy. While they turned us into an enemy too. That knife cuts both ways. Again, retardonomics. We don't have the monopoly on it. The world is practicing retardonomics. Politicians can't help themselves. They feel like they have to control something when the best thing they could do about anything is nothing. You want to know why AI isn't going to save us? Because we're not going to leave it alone. And we're not going to not pause it. And we're not going to not regulate it. And we're going to do all the stupid things that we always do to make things more expensive. There's more to you again. For absolutely no reason, because we are led by politicians who are part of a democracy that our founders intentionally never wanted to let happen. And now we've let the parasites vote. People who do not pay taxes are voting for how much they take. And it's politically viable to pander. And we've lost our collective minds. We're living in idiocracy. And the practice that we're practicing is retardonomics. And we're stuck with it. And I wish I had a more helpful message for you. I don't think there's any way out of this. I think the only way you should be buying gold, absolutely, positively, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay, if you're a believer in crypto, and I'm not here to have a crypto discussion with you, Bitcoin as well, but not just Bitcoin. Definitely use gold as your major hedge. You can use Bitcoin to some extent if you want. We'll have a discussion about Bitcoin on another day. Okay, not today. That's not what this is about. And guys, if if no one good is running, then don't vote. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter. They're all retarded. It's retardonomics gone wild. And frankly, the sooner we peel off the band-aid, the better. If you're considering, should you sell your house? Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. I know. I'm the only guy saying it. Everyone says sit where you are. If you have a low interest rate mortgage, sit where you are. And here I am, an ex-criminal telling you sell your house. The only reason you should believe me is I'm not trying to buy your house. I couldn't if I wanted to. But I know finance and I have a long background and I've been very successful at it. I'm happy to prove it anytime. I have plenty of documentary evidence. I'm just telling you, this is a little wisdom here from a guy you can believe, because I have nothing to gain by telling you other than I hope you share it and like this podcast and all that other kind of good stuff. And that is simply this: party's over. And if you pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, if you own real estate today or stocks, okay, or bonds for that matter, liquidate. Now, I know that's very aggressive, and I know that I have no, one of my problems that is built into me is I have no fear of risk, and I have no fear of failure, despite everything that's gone on in my life. You would think I would have grown a set of, fear factors or something. I just don't have it. So I'm not telling you to have my risk tolerance. So to the extent that you can tolerate doing something smart and fight your resistance to change, okay, the smart thing here is liquidate everything, go to cash for what you need in the short term and gold for everything else, and sit tight, okay, and rent, because rents are going down. Right here in Phoenix, they're going down. We've built too much, okay, rental properties. They're going to go down. The Airbnb market's collapsing as we speak. It's going to continue to collapse like crazy when the big recession comes. All those houses that people bought and speculated on that have driven up the price of real estate to ridiculous levels are all going to find themselves empty all at once. It's going to make the crash of 2008 look like a walk in the park. And this time we don't have the capability to stop it. Secretary Best, in fact, last week on this bond auction, tried to intervene, and it didn't work. It didn't work because we don't have enough money. We're out of options. There is no other plan. There is no secret control. There is no one on the right or left to save any of us, okay? I know it's doom and gloomy. I don't mean it to be that way. I'm smiling because I'm a natural optimist, and it's going to happen. There's no point worrying about it. It's going to happen. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Look at it this way, and this is how I'm going to close. Let's say you took my advice 100%, which I don't expect you to do, but let's just pretend you do, okay? And you sell all of your stocks and all of your real estate, and you go to cash. When I say cash, I mean FDIC insured accounts, okay? I don't mean money market accounts. Money markets are very stable, but they can lose value. It's happened before. Don't think back to 2008 and do a little research. Probably not, but they could. If you're going to play it safe, then play it all the way safe. Don't worry about the return on your money. Worry about the return of your money. Most of it's going to be hedged against inflation in the gold, okay, if you're smart, okay? But in the meantime, whatever you need for cash, your living expenses, 6 months in advance, a year in advance, whatever you want to set aside, I don't know your financial situation, that should be in cash in the bank. And you should break it up between banks to get FDIC insured insurance, pardon me, if you have more than $250,000 in cash. And then with everything else, I'd buy gold. Okay? Now, I don't think that the markets are going to come to an end, and I really wouldn't buy physical gold because I have no place to store it, and I don't want to save full of gold in my house. So personally, I would be buying iShares or ETFs, exchange traded funds that have next to no management fee. I think I looked at Fidelity has a gold ETF that I think the management fees are 0.09%. I mean, they're next to nothing. Okay, that's percent. Okay, 0.09%, which is 9/100ths of 1%. That's not much. That's just for structuring the deal. That's how I'd buy the gold, and it'll be perfectly safe. Now, I understand that if you're a survivalist, you're not going to agree with me. I'm not a survivalist. I'm a survivor. I've talked about this before. Be a survivor. Now, you're not going to take my advice, but if I'm wrong, what's the worst thing that happens? You have a whole bunch of gold and a whole bunch of cash. Maybe you lose a little money on the gold. Very unlikely. If you look at gold over a long period of time, I'll put up a chart on gold. You'll see that gold on the long, it's going to make you money. Okay, it's going to make money. You know, it's as simple as that. Maybe if they find gold on Mars and they one day flood the market with Martian gold, but you and I aren't going to live long enough to worry about that. So let's not worry about 20 years off. Let's worry about, let's not worry about the one day we may not be in. Let's worry about the one day we are in. Okay, hedge your bets. Be smart. Okay, cash and gold. Now, after the crash, I'm going to be telling you when everybody else is telling you that everything's horrible and with whatever money you have left, by all means, hoard it and put it away. That will be, of course, the opposite of what you should do. At that point, buy low, sell high. You want to rush into the market and buy every piece of every stock and every houses that were 500,000 are going to be 100,000. Okay, it's going to be that kind of crash, and you're going to be able to buy things very, very cheap. And cash is king. Cash is king. Cash is king. So just remember what I tell you. And I think I'm going to leave it right there. Guys, just remember this. Worry that's never done anything. Like, unless you have mind powers where you can move objects, don't worry. I'm telling you what's going to happen so that you can prepare yourself, not to fill you full of worry and dread. Okay? Listen, we'll figure it out. We always do. And if we don't, then why worry about it? The worst thing that can happen is we're dead, right? We're not going to die. Okay. The second worst thing that can happen is we could suffer. We might suffer. We can mitigate that suffering, hedge the bet. If I'm right, you're hedged. If I'm wrong, you're okay. You might miss out on some of the gains of the stock market, but one last thing. Every major industry, when it comes out with something new, ends up with a bubble and a bust. AI is going to bust. When I say AI, not AI itself, but a lot of the hype around it right now is going to turn out not to be true. And AI stocks, and this could be the thing that sets off the chain reaction. This is the other trigger that I didn't mention earlier that I think may be the trigger, is AI stocks are going to bust. And when I say bust, like the dot-coms busted back in 1999 and 2000, that I predicted in the Tucson Citizen in an article that you can find archived somewhere that I wrote. I think it was February of 1999. I said it was going to bust, and it did. Okay, I could introduce you to people that would tell you I did. Okay, but I'm just telling you, as sure as God made little green apples, AI is going to bust because it's been overhyped. And then what's going to happen is it'll settle down and it'll grow just like the internet stocks did, just like, Amazon was one of a gajillion dot-coms. And then there was a huge bust, and all the retail dot-coms, .this, .that, groceries, this, that, everything in the world was .com. They were all gone except Amazon and a few others. And then what's grown since is a much healthier industry. Well, the AI is not the internet. My boomers, don't confuse AI with internet technologies and .coms. They're not the same thing. This is a brand new thing. Okay, AI 101, not the internet. Whole different animal. Okay, whole different industry. There's going to be an AI bust. It's probably, in my view, it's also more likely to be the thing that kicks off the break in the dollar, frankly, because our entire growth right now is balanced on the AI bubble right now, the whole thing. But I'm going to leave it at that because I could continue to go on, and I'm at 32 minutes, and that's as long as this long form ought to go without boring you all out of your minds. And there will be another time a little later this week where I'll pop up another one and another. I'll put up 3 this week. Don't even worry about it. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, share, and until the next time, try to keep a smile on your face, and peace out.